I thought I would concentrate this video in helping a child with homework. So it's not necessarily a conversation, but it's a help because there might be some hearing parents out there that have deaf children. And the deaf children could be going either to a deaf school and have need some homework either on the video or when they get home, or if they live close by, or they have a deaf teacher, or they could be going mainstream where they have an interpreter. And so you're going to have these two different ways that they might be getting information. So you want to know, how is that person signing to your child? What signs are they using so that you can do them too? So I'll try to show you as many ways that I know or what I see, what I normally see. So the first sign is homework. Homework. Do you have any homework to do? No, I finished at school. Normally they will have some homework, and I'm going to do just like 4 basic subjects. So the first one we're going to do is math, because a lot of people don't like math, and there's some who love math, but we'll get that out of the way. So math, M and math. This also means to figure it out. This also means multiplication, math, arithmetic with A's. So that's the sign for that. So times something. So let's start out with addition. Addition. This is the total of, and that's any. So the total would be, so I use that in addition, but I also use it in also the other math. What is the total? And so whenever the teacher says, what's the total of, or the word problem is the total of, you put it all together. So, but there's also the equal sign. So if your child is very young, then they're going to start out with pictures and different manipulatives, things that they do with their hands, that they're going to do grouping and things like that. So when you see an addition, they'll say, Amy had 2 apples and Joe had 2 oranges. How many did they have all together? And so that's when you would do, that's the first kinds of word problems that they'll have. So let's go over the numbers, since I'm going to be doing some numbers. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, there are 3 different ways that people will do from 16 to 19 differently. I did 16, 17. Now, some people will do 16, 17. Now, I usually see that in the older people, but you may still see it, and there may be still some people doing that. Or they'll do 10, 6, 10, 7, 10, 8. I think that takes longer. I think it's a little bit harder, but there are some people who learned it that way, and that's how they do those numbers. So that's 3 different ways, and that way you'll know what your child comes home with. And so you'll say, oh, okay, that's just a different way of doing it. And so, so we did the very basic thing, the word problems. If somebody has this many and somebody has this many, and you put them all together, you can either add it together or you can add it together. And sometimes if you're seeing that problem. Now, for children, you can either do the problem out here or you can do it one-handed. 1 plus 1 equal 2. 1 plus 1 equal 2. You can either draw it this way or you can just do it one-handed. Like I said, it depends on how that child is being taught. So that's addition. So subtraction or minus. So when they say the word subtraction, or we're going to learn about the concept of subtraction, because you take away, or minus, and you'll see that as a problem. Problem, here's the sign for problem. solution. And then I'll talk about remainder when we get to division. So subtraction is 2, and then you can say, you can start out with take away. Take away 1, how much is left? 1. 2 minus 1 equal 1. 2 minus 1 equal 1. I wanted to do the 3 different ways so that you could see it and you could see what would be clear for your child. So sometimes it's the easiest way for you, but what's clear for them to see it. So that's addition. Subtraction. We already did this. We've done addition. We've done subtraction. Now let's go on to multiplication. Oh, and I did say grouping. So when you group it, so let's say you group it, or you'll have like, let's say 13. So you have 10 all together in one group. 10 plus 3 equal 13. So that might be kind of a concept with grouping. Like I said, I'm not sure, like if your child's in that mainstream, they're going to have an interpreter, or they may have a deaf teacher and how they teach it. You may want to go and find out, ask, maybe after school and question them, so you can see, so you can help them at home. Division, a divisor. I forgot. In multiplication, let me back up. In multiplication, they'll say product. I usually do not sign the product because to me it's confusing, but you can sign product. This is the sign for product. You'll say, how much is it? How much all together? Okay, now division. So this is division, divisor. And they'll say, what's the remainder? How much is left? So you need to understand what the words mean so that you can sign them. When you write out a division problem, then you'll have that, and you'll have that divisor sign, and then they'll say, and then you might have some left over. So what's left? So how much is left over? They may have R for remainder. But I would still teach that R is how much is left over. When they write it, here's your divisor, you're dividing it, and so you have that division, and so you have that, 9 divided by 3 equals 3, and so that's how you would sign that. But then you can draw the picture, and then how much is left over? None. So some of those are later concepts. But also when they teach a concept and you'll have parentheses, you'll have an exponent. Now, so you'll say, when you're doing in your order, you'll do the exponents first. The parentheses are second. Multiplication is third, and then you go through that order. But when you're talking about an exponent, like 3 has an exponent of 2. I go higher. I don't just do exponent 2. You could do that. But if I'm just interpreting, I am doing 3 with the exponent of 2, right? And do 2, the exponent. So you want to make sure things are clear. And so that's how you want to do that. Now, when you get to geometry or algebra, when they try to prepare them for that, they don't call it that necessarily. And so they talk about the shapes, and I think we've already done some of the shapes like triangle and circle and rectangle and a square. So angle. So they always have, and they have degrees. It's a 45-degree angle, or a 90 degrees, a 0-degree angle. And then you'll have the slope. And then you'll have the base, which is the base, right? And so you find out what those terms are so that you can do those. So you want to make sure that you can get that. When they go a little bit more, when they get into more of an algebra, then you're going to have X and Y. But sometimes we just look at those problems and we're going, oh my gosh, I'm trying to solve for X, I'm trying to solve for I. What does that mean? Think of that graph paper. X, Y. Later they'll have Z and other things if they go into calculus. Or maybe, I think it's calculus and not trig, because calculus is more with 3D. So so you want to be able to, that they're thinking about what that shape is, or where that point is. Algebra is more about where's that point on that graph. It's on that, either the X or the Y. It's on this part and it's on this part, and you go and it's in the points there. And if you put them all together, you have this shape, right? And so you can, then you make the shapes, you just draw them in the air. And then when you do formulas, F to the X and things like that. So, and then they go on from there. So, and calculus is basically a circle. And so when they do that in high school, they learn that. So it's pi, P-I. So I always spell it P-I. But in the book, it would be pi. And once they start learning that, you could do this sign. As an interpreter, I didn't. It was always breaking my flow, so I always spell pi. But they should already know that. It's like in spelling or whatever, that they learn that. So let's move on from math. And let's go to spelling. So let's go back down to spelling. So this is the beginning of English, which is basically grammar based. But spelling, you need to know how to spell. And so when you're trying to help your child with spelling, don't just spell the word and they copy you, because that's not what happens at school. So a deaf child, the sign is the sound. And then the picture is of that object when they're first learning. And then they spell it. For example, you'll have a picture of a cat. 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 That thing is this. And then how you spell it in English is C-A-T. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not as easy as you think. So, and like, oh, that's a picture of a dog. So you spell it D-O-G. So now they're learning English. It's not just ASL to be able to communicate, but now it's a second language. So they can't hear the sound. So you'll have to do the sign and then they will spell it. It's like sight words, and that's how they have to learn. It's a little bit different, a little bit harder, I would say, for deaf children. A spelling test is the same thing. They need to understand that interpreter will be interpreting the sign, like arc. They need to know it's A-R-C-H and not arc, A-R-K, which I had that experience. So those are the things that they need to learn. That interpreter will be, or the teacher, if she's a deaf ed teacher, they will be signing the word, and they have to know how to spell. When they see that sign, oh, now they got to get that picture, and then you spell it this way. So that's how they do that. When they go up and get into more English class, which is really more grammar, really, you do have to know how to spell, but you also need to know punctuation, and you also need to know some of the words that are not used in sign language, like is, it, am, and, those kinds of words. So if you're doing that with them, is, put your pinky out, it, am, an, the, a possessive S, apostrophe S, possessiveness. Oh, we're going to go over to Billy's house and play. So that's a possessive apostrophe S. Punctuation. It's like jewelry. It doesn't have one single sign, because punctuation is what? It's a comma. It is an apostrophe. It's a period. It's an exclamation point. It's a question mark. It is all, that's what punctuation is. And then you would probably do, oh, you need to make sure your punctuation is correct. And you would just do several signs, because there's not a sign. It's like jewelry. This is the sign for jewelry. So you would need to know those and to help them to know that that's where they put that comma, or you need apostrophe S, or you need to add that the or an, A-N. So here we go for noun and verb. So this is the sign for noun, noun, verb, adjective, ADJ, adverb, ADV. And that's how it's abbreviated in the book. And so those are the, the helping verbs, and, they say it different ways now. So those are the things that you would need to know to be able to help. Like, for example, if you're explaining what's a noun, it is a person, place, or a thing. That's a noun, or a proper noun. And so those are always spelled. Also capital letters, like they may learn their letters and they might say, oh, we need a capital C or a capital D and the rest is lowercase. So here we have our fingers, and this is L for letters. This is the sign. Some people do that for a letter like you're going to mail, but this is the L for the alphabet, for letters. So if you want a capital, it's going to be you want a capital B and then a lowercase, and then you do your capital whatever, capital. So if it's a capital B and then a lowercase O-W. So something like that. So you need to make sure that you explain that and they learn that. And that is English class grammar, right? So they'll know how to do that, or when to put in a comma or a colon or semicolon, that kind of stuff. So hopefully they'll learn that and not just get it for spell check, grammar check. So, okay, so we've done math and we've done English, spelling, and let's do our fourth one is social studies. Social studies. I don't know what they call it now. Culture class. I don't know. In college it's anthropology, right? So it's the study of people. So they're going to maybe talk about countries. And so we've done some of the signs for countries, but the one thing I want to concentrate is a map. So a map, and you have the compass rose, right? North, south, east, and west. Now, that's my perspective, because the east is to the right of the north. Now, to a child sitting next to me is to the left, right? Or, if you have a mirror image. So some interpreters will do north, south, east, and west. For me, that's kind of confusing. Some people are really strong about that, and other interpreters are like me and do it the way from my perspective. And so regardless of that, it's important that you show the child the map and say New York is in the east, because when you're looking at it, you're going to go to the right, correct? Because if you're just looking at it, you're not going to go to the east. I mean, it gets confusing. So you really want to show them that New York east, California west, North Dakota north, Texas south. So they can learn when they look on a map, because that's how they're going to be learning first, is looking at that map and what is in the east and what's in the west and what's in the north and what's in the south. And then as they get older, so they should be able to understand it from their perspective and kind of close their eyes and look at it. So that's why I do north, south, east, and west. But like I said, I've had some really good elementary school interpreters, and they're awesome. And they will do it the opposite way. So whichever, you need to learn how that deaf teacher's doing it and how the interpreter's doing it. So you can do that too. But also, you don't want to confuse a child. So make sure you look and see how they do it. Also, when you talk about social studies, you talk about culture, you talk about food, you talk about clothes. So I think you know those signs. I was trying to think of the other subjects that might be very pertinent or you may need some help with, and I can't think of them right now because I wanted to start out with the basics. But if you have an idea for another subject that you would like some signs for, so you can help your child have a discussion with your child about, please let me know and just write it in the comments. Anyway, so have fun and practice, and I will see you soon. Bye.